Let's be honest here, Law never stood a chance. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 1094 of One Piece. Last time we focused pretty much entirely on Law versus Blackbeard, but we did also see that Kuzan and Van Augur had gone to Whole Cake Island and kidnapped Charlotte Pudding. Obviously because of her ability to read poneglyphs. So that's going to be interesting to see how things continue to go here. But Blackbeard is making all these big power plays, and it makes sense. Like, it absolutely makes sense. All of these big names are so close to getting to Laugh Tale. It's like, this is going to be the point where these big moves are made. And Blackbeard is probably one of the most ambitious of them. He's definitely going to be making a lot of these plays to try and just, solidify his spot at the top. It's going to be interesting to see what more he does going forward. But I am also hoping that we get back to the stuff on Egghead, because a lot of that's really fascinating me. I'm definitely interested to see what more we get and how much further we go with a lot of this backstory and everything. Because the last time we were at Egghead, we saw that Bonnie had revealed that Kuma is her father. And we never really got the, full aftermath of that yet. So I'm definitely interested to see more on where that goes, how they end up stopping the police pacifista without destroying it, since Bonnie doesn't want that. Just a lot of questions here. Are they going to be, maybe rescued by one of the satellites of Vegapunk? That's a possibility. And then we still have to check in on the others who are with Lilith. So a lot of things need to kind of come together still, but we've got time, obviously. Now, all of that being said, we're just going to get right into this and hope for the best. I just really don't know what's going to happen next here, so let's hope that it ends up being, as always, really good. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, at least Shaka, I don't know if all of the Vegapunks, but at least Shaka is in contact with Dragon. And that's big information. Because Dragon is actively, as, leader of the Revolutionary Army, fighting against the world government. But Vegapunk is supposedly working for the world government. If it's not just Shaka, if it's all of Vegapunk, if it's all of the satellites and the original body of Vegapunk, who are working with the Revolutionary Army, then that means Vegapunk is a dirty traitor. And that means he's a good guy. Well, more than likely. It means we can trust him, I would say. Because pretty much anyone who actively opposes the world government can be trusted unless they're explicitly shown to be otherwise. And the ones who are explicitly shown to be otherwise are like the big pirates out there. But Vegapunk's not a pirate. We know that. He's a scientist. And the thing is, again, he's supposedly working for the world government. So if he's working with the Revolutionary Army who opposes the world government, that kind of means he's either basically a revolutionary spy, or, and I think this one's more likely, he has become disillusioned with the world government's evils since working for them, and has been secretly siding with the Revolutionary Army some point since then, probably because of Kuma, because of his connection to that. Because we know Kuma connects to both the Revolutionary Army and Vegapunk. So I think it's more likely that option. He started working for them probably genuinely, but then over the course of time he became disillusioned with what they were doing and decided to change sides. But secretly, he kept on working for the government in order to get intel and give intel, as well as to manipulate some strings behind the scenes. That's kind of my view on it. But, I mean, I don't know if that's accurate at all. I'll just tell you right now, that is one thing I do not know. I do not know how that's going to all turn out. But that is an exciting revelation, that he's working with Dragon. Or, again, at least Shaka. If it's just Shaka, again, that at least means he can be trusted. It could be like, maybe there's a mix. Like, maybe some of the satellites are working, like, for the government genuinely, and some are, you know, working with Dragon instead. Maybe it's, like, kind of a blended thing. But then where would the actual, like, real Vegapunk... I mean, they're all real, you know what I mean, but... Where would the original Vegapunk, let's say that, where would he lie in that? I don't know. It raises a lot of questions and makes you think in the best way. It's such a great reveal. We had some fun seeing Bonnie use her powers to not just save her and the Straw Hats from the police pacifista, but also allowing us to see, like, different aged forms of all of these characters. It's kind of a fun little thing to just throw in here. Old Chopper is basically just, like, slightly, like, deflated looking. Like, there's not really too much different there. Slightly deflated looking, seemed to be having trouble breathing, but that was about it. Old Luffy was very different looking. The hair especially. Now, mind you, it did say a possible future, so obviously things could change based on certain factors. But he was, like, you know, old and in, like, physical pain and stuff because, yeah, that tends to happen a lot. Meanwhile, Jinbe was turned young. Like, I don't know if he was turned into a child on purpose, but probably not, I would say. But I think in terms of, like, the writing and everything from Oda, I think Oda did it on purpose in order to showcase young Jinbe as a lead up to showing the Seraphim modeled after young Jinbe. And we already saw Seraphim before modeled after Hancock and Mihawk, right? So it definitely seems like they're all being based on the warlords, or, well, former warlords now, because that system was abolished. Which is very interesting in its own right. I understand, like, why they would be chosen as models for this, but also, like, they also have the Lunarian traits to them. It's just really interesting. Vegapunk is obviously involved in their creation. That much, like, we already could figure out because he creates the pacivistas. We know that. So that's not a surprise necessarily. I just wasn't necessarily expecting to see one right there. It just kind of happened out of nowhere. I'm very curious about like how this is going to go down though. Why did Edison lead them to the Jinbe Seraphim? Is Edison testing them, or is it something else? Maybe Edison is a bad guy and wants to take them out. It's hard to tell. It's so hard to tell. There's a lot of mystery surrounding things right now. The rest of the crew, except for Zoro and Brooke, who stayed on to watch the ship, they got their Future Island outfits. And yeah, like I said, obviously even outside of the mid card, I have seen these outfits before. It's just that's one thing I haven't been able to avoid. And honestly, that's not that big of a spoiler or anything. Oh, they have new outfits. They have that almost every arc, if not every arc, pretty much at this point. So it's like, yeah, I one expected new outfits, and two, I don't consider that as that much of a spoiler. So I'm not that worried about having known that one. Um, I'm kind of mixed on the outfits, if I'm being honest. And I think I might have talked about this a little bit when Luffy, Jinbei, and Bonnie got theirs. Um, some of the outfits are okay looking. Like I'm fine with Luffy's outfit. Jinbei and Sanji just kind of having the Hawaiian shirts like look fine. But then some of the outfits look kind of silly. Like Frankie's looks very silly, and I understand that Frankie tends to look pretty silly nowadays. It's kind of it become part of his post time skip character to look silly, but it's a little much for me. Usopp's is kind of on the verge as well. It's just it's a little off, and I don't know exactly how to describe why. Nami and Robin's like are very clearly made for sex appeal because, as we all know, Oda is horny. Like this is like a joke, but it's also very blatantly, obviously true. Like, dude is just horny on main. He just does not let up with that. And as I've said before, there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with someone being horny and wanting to incorporate sexy character designs into their manga. That's perfectly reasonable. But it's like some of these outfits are just a little ridiculous in how just purely for sex appeal they're made. It's like you can make outfits that are sexy but also have like, use. It's kind of like female, like the stereotypical female video game armor. Like you think of the stereotypical female video game armor, and it's like, oh, guys get this whole armored plating, girls get basically a metal bikini, which, by the way, that would be very uncomfortable as well. But it's like it's not, it doesn't have any usefulness. It's like that kind of shit's not going to protect you. And it's like you look at the outfits here, and it's like kind of the same thing. It's like even if not protection wise is what is being thought of here, it's like what good is this going to do? Now, mind you, it's basically said that they kind of chose their outfits, kind of. They didn't really understand what they were doing, but they were told to choose their outfits, and they presumably did select what they got. But at the same time, it's like, how can they find that like a good outfit? Again, I'm just thinking of practicality here. Those outfits are not practical in the slightest. They are purely for sex appeal. And I guess in that regard, they do accomplish their goal. They are sexy. I mean, sure. But it's just like, I just, I don't know. I know they can handle themselves. I know they can take care of themselves, but it's like, it's like outfits like that kind of make you worry a little bit. It's like that is not practical for the battles that you definitely will be having. And it is not practical for, really, I think most anything. There is no practical sense to those outfits. But yeah, nonetheless, everyone has their outfits now except, again, Zoro and Brooke, who, again, stayed on the ship. And are having tea with Caribou, I guess. Though it seems like he's probably going to just run away. Um, every time Caribou pops up, I always forget he was even there. And so it always surprises me. And it's like, usually I wouldn't forget that kind of thing, but at the same time, it's like Caribou is just one of those characters who are written to be so random. Like, he's literally written in a way that it's supposed to surprise you every time he pops up. He's supposed to kind of come across as not like super memorable in the way to where it's like, yeah, he's having no impact on anything. He's just kind of appears every now and again. Is just kind of there. And then he's gone again for who knows how long. So you're not really supposed to remember him. That's, I think, kind of the joke. And don't get me wrong, I think he's hilarious. I think Caribou's fucking hilarious, but at the same time, it's just like, just suddenly Caribou again. Um, but yeah, so he, I guess, is going to go off on his own. Zoro, I understand his distrust of this island and everything. It makes perfect sense. Again, especially considering it's a government island. Now, there's also the fact that we have to take into account. Bonnie got exceptionally mad when her father was referred to as a tyrant. And so it's kind of implied through this episode that Kuma was not as bad as he's, portrayed to have been. That his tyrant status and all was like revisionism by the world government in order to hide something else, probably related to this special tribe, I guess he's part of, but could also be connected to just the fact that, according to Bonnie at least, he was very much against the world government. He very much disagreed with them. And so it raises a lot of questions on, was he made a cyborg by choice or was it against his will? But also, on top of that, what is the true history of Kuma and why are they trying to revise it so much for the public's perception? It can't just be the Revolutionary Army bit. That's too simple. And I feel like the special race thing is too simple too. There's got to be more to it. And I just can't. I just don't know what it is. I have no clue. But that makes this more interesting. Like I said, there's kind of this mystery element so far in this arc, and I really like that. I really think that's going to lend well to whatever they're going to be revealing here. Especially considering it is the final saga and... Excuse me. With all the big reveals we're getting, I think having like some things like hidden behind this kind of mystery is going to be a fun idea. I also really like in this episode that Luffy and them understood that while that was not actually Kuma, Bonnie was very upset by it, and like they even told her, it's like, close your eyes. We have no choice but to fight. They're apologizing to her because they understand her strife. They understand her worry and her pain. So they tell her, close your eyes. You don't need to see this and stuff. And it's like, that's really sweet. And it's like, yeah, of course it is. It's Luffy. Luffy's a sweetheart. But it's always just nice to see an action like that. Especially for someone like Bonnie, who is very clearly traumatized. She's very clearly fucked up by this entire situation with her father and everything that's been going on. It brought up in this episode that this is why she's here to see Vegapunk, obviously. So it's like, I'm very interested to learn more and find out more about how Kuma really was, as well as just Bonnie's entire perception of things and how this all has gone down, and you get the gist. So, yeah, very, very excited for what's to come. I assume next episode we're going to be, like, actually meeting Edison. I would think, at least. But yeah. As always, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of One Piece? And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.